Hey, it's Monday. It's Lock and Load and broadcasting on the interwebs and on gun channels from the big island of Hawaii. It's the incredible HVS and my wonderful panelists, Dusty One and Squib from Michigan. And happy Memorial Day to all of America. And let's see. So I don't know about everybody else, but I've been watching war movies on the Turner Classic Movie Marathon. Like they've been having war movies all weekend. Starting from I think Friday, and here we are on Monday, and it's for me the one that I liked the most was 12 O'Clock High. And that was a Fox film starring Gregory Peck. He won a Academy nomination. I'm not sure if he won the Academy for Best Actor, but I know he talked to a lot of Air Corps people he studied up for this role a lot. And that's a film where he takes over for a Hard Luck Squadron after he has to have the nicest guys in the Air Corps fired because he couldn't hack he had over-identified with his men and they couldn't order them into the almost certain death of daylight precision bombing in B-17 bombers. And the squadrons had all kinds of problems, screw-ups, and they were dropping like flies on their bombing missions. So, and that was before they had come up with some kind of number that, I don't know if you flew 30 missions and then you got to go home or whatever it was. But then this is when they were just trying it out. And so he takes over and has to deal with his character is Frank Savage, and he has to command a B-17 squadron, doing unescorted bombing missions over German-held Europe and into Germany at the end. The ball bearing raids at Schweinfurt. And so, and it basically deals with it's a movie that every CEO or business school plays so that people understand what it's like to command, and I personally have never been in command, and I know Gregory Peck wasn't. He was an actor, but he does an incredible job at just showing, the mental hardships of having to order people to die, and it's the way he does it is it's just, in the end, he freezes up, he has a mental breakdown, and he's near the end of the movie, he's in his chair, frozen, and he ordered 21 bombers out to bomb a ball bearing plant in Schweinfurt, and because it took more than one mission to destroy all the plants. And as the planes are coming back, he starts as you hear the engines roll of the B-17s come back into the landing field, and the more engines he hears come back, and he knows that more people are coming back, he slowly regains life because he was just frozen solid in his chair. He could just stare straight forward, and then at the end of the movie he manages to stand up and say a few words, and then just goes to sleep for a day, for the rest of the day. And so that was one of the good movies I liked, tonight is like all submarines all night on Turner Classic Movies. I think right now is Destination Tokyo, and I think they've got the John Wayne film Operation Pacific or Across the Pacific. Well, no, that was Across the Pacific. That was a bogey movie, the one where he plays an American agent on a Japanese ship, and I think Sidney Greenstreet plays a Japanese agent trying to blow up the Panama Canal or something like that. And so, boy, I watched a lot of war movies. So I just wanted to ask everybody what their favorite war movie was, either from this weekend or all time. And did learn a lot of stuff, like Kelly's Heroes was on the today too, and I didn't know that the studio had edited out a lot of that because it started out as a like a Vietnam kind of anti-war movie, but the studio just basically they kept all the comedy and edited out all the anti-war stuff. And so Clint Eastwood said, well, it took a lot of the impact out of the movie, but it's just like everybody's favorite, one of their favorite movies too. But anyway, so anybody chime in on what their favorite war movie was this weekend?
Well, we watched one war movie this weekend. It was one that neither my wife or I had ever seen. That was Force 10 from Navarone. It has something in common with Kelly's Heroes. Not that it was a World War II movie. That they, in both movies, they used Soviet T-34 tanks as stand-ins for German tanks.
You know what that also has something in common with, now that you bring that particular thing up? Tora. They use like Japanese and American, instead of like American, they weren't real ships that they were using. They were like barges, and they mocked them up to look like ships. In Tora, it's all the planes are real. There's no CGI. All the explosions were real. That was like one of the last films. And I think when they redid Pearl Harbor, that movie recently, it was like they took, the film shots of the fighters and the Japanese fighters, because good luck finding a Japanese fighter nowadays, or a Val or something. And they took the films from Tora and CGI'd them and stuff. But Tora was all...
Tora didn't have one Japanese plane in it. Those were American planes with Japanese markings. They were using T6s. They were using T6s. They might have been SNJs or Harbor.
Those are real explosions, though. Those weren't. They didn't have.
Yeah, those might have been real, but the planes they didn't have. Same thing with the Final Countdown. They didn't have Japanese Zeros. The only Zero that I know that flies is in Chino, California, but. That I haven't seen that plane in a long time. So since then, maybe somebody's brought a few to operational condition. Who knows? The bow, I don't know that there are any left, flying or otherwise.
Well, I thought some of them were in Tora, but I know the explosions were real. But they were real planes. Basically, there was no CGI.
Yeah, those were real planes. Yeah, those were American trainers painted with Japanese markings because just getting a Zero. Good luck.
So what you liked about Force 10 from Navarone was, I know your wife liked Robert Shaw from Jaws.
Yeah, she liked Robert Shaw because she could identify because he was in Jaws and that's her favorite movie. And I thought the acting was good. And I kind of figured this was probably a low budget film based on the fact that some of the stuff was kind of, it looked kind of low budget and whatnot, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad story. It wasn't a bad, film if you wanted something a little bit more 90 minutes in a World War II film and stuff like that. Some of the things that the characters did, I thought it kind of took me by surprise where in the beginning of the film, they steal a bomber. And I thought that was pretty clever, they to do that. But the fact that they were flying high altitude, they would get picked up on radar right away. You think they'd be skimming the water and then come up high altitude to parachute at the last minute, and they didn't. They flew high altitude the whole way, and that cost them. And
the problem was they knew their departure was reported. They almost didn't need radar. They just had to know the speed of the airplane and when they took off, and then you could figure out where they were going.
They stole it.
Yeah,
they stole it because the last two missions were everybody on the base knew about the missions, and before the missions got there, they got shot down. So they said, we're going to steal a plane, and nobody's going to know except the people back in London. Then nobody's going to know, and that way we can get in. Well, that's all good and fine, dude, but if you fly right into their radar, you're going to get picked up. They didn't need to have a spy on the base alert the Germans. They alerted the Germans themselves.
The best part movie was Barbara Bach taking a bath.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I will say that was pretty good. The other thing too is
that was amazing, is what it was.
Every opportunity they had to capture weapons, they pretty much tossed them away, which is really, that's a big movie goof. You don't kill 3 enemy soldiers, take 1 pistol and 1 mag and walk away, leave the submachine gun behind, leave all the extra ammo behind, leave the rifle behind. No, you don't do that in real life. But otherwise, though, I thought it was a really good film. I thought the acting was good. It was kind of, a little Dirty Dozen-esque. You know what I mean? I never saw the first one. Was it the Guns of Navarone, which is an entirely different film with
another Gregory Peck movie, Guns of Navarone. But yeah, David Niven and Gregory Peck, playing at cross purposes.
But we didn't really go into the weekend with the intent of watching a military film, even though it's Memorial Day weekend. We were going to watch a Western, and I don't know, I picked that one, and it's a World War II film, and I said, yeah, why not? I mean, when you say, your favorite one, first thing that comes to my mind is Full Metal Jacket, but, I did not watch that this weekend.
Oh, well, you can't watch it every weekend.
Watch it. I lived it.
Okay, so Enrique says In Harm's Way, Kirk Douglas and John Wayne. The part I relate to with Kirk Douglas is his trashy girlfriend. I've had a few of those. Paths of Glory. I think I've seen that recently, but I almost forgot who was in it and what it's about. In Harm's Way was a John Wayne film, and with Kirk Douglas. Okay. Let's see. Dusty, how about you?
Grandman jumped in.
Oh, Dusty or Grandman? Tell us your...
Probably my favorite's always been Good Morning Vietnam, but I was always a Robin Williams fan. So
yeah, he's a very talented. He was a very talented actor and comedian. There's nothing not to like about Robin Williams. He was just talented. I think I saw him on. I looked up on YouTube recently, and I watched him on the rerun on YouTube of Craig Ferguson's show, and they were just like, they were like awesome. They're just great chemistry and together, bouncing stuff off of each other. It's not like they were saying stuff because they were laughing the whole time. And he was a talented person. You get Robin Williams on a camera, and you almost, the director becomes like a fourth wheel or a fifth wheel or something.
Well, and I seen on some interviews since he died, that's the only time he was happy was when he was acting. It was just miserable.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. You put them in front of a mic or a camera, or behind a camera, and everything is flows. But then as soon as as soon as the job is over, just everything goes to pieces. They can't organized egg on toast. It's just their personal life is messed up. That's very common because it's a high pressure situation. Working on films, but okay, Grandman, did you have any? Did he make it in? I'm sorry, I'm checking out the other chats here. 1 second.
I think he got kicked out like I did for some reason.
Okay, I hope you can make it back. Well,
he had being censored tonight.
The NSA.
Well, if they don't want us to talk about war movies, what's wrong with that? All right. Well, let's see. Destination Tokyo. 30 seconds over. 30 seconds over Tokyo. I think they used real bombers on that one. That was the original black and white version of that was on. I saw some of that. I've seen these movies so many times before, but that was a pretty good movie. But 12 O'Clock High has got to be one of my favorites, but anyway, let's see what else has been on. Any other war movies you guys want to talk about?
Well, you said there's submarine movies on tonight. I wonder if I should go run upstairs and DVR a few.
Absolutely. I'll babble and do. I'll pantomime until you get back.
Is U571 on? I thought that was pretty good.
That was okay. That of course it was the same theme. Matthew McConaughey, he wants to know why he wasn't appointed to. His character wasn't appointed. Promoted to captain, and it was because you're the captain of the ship says, well, I held you back from being promoted. I didn't recommend you because you're friends with everybody on the ship, and which one of them are you willing to order to his death to accomplish your mission? And he had to stop and think. Well, and in the end of the movie, he has to order people to die. I don't know how you do that. I've never been in the military, so I could order people to do their loops, but which was my job. Read the line. It wasn't go out and get killed. So it's different, especially because you've been in this unit and you've been working with these people for months and years and training with them, and then order them to go and get killed. And, so whatever the mission was, in that case, in U571 was to capture the cipher machine, the Enigma machine, and without the Germans knowing that it had been captured. So, and everybody on the ship was expendable to accomplish that mission. And pretty much everybody died. So on the mission, mission accomplished. But in the end, the Germans added a fourth cipher wheel. But anyway, that's beyond the scope of the movie. But let's see what else was on. Dirty Dozen was on.
Great film.
And that was what was great about that film was that it was an anti-war film. But it was it made the left and had something for everybody. If you didn't like wars, it was like an anti-authority film. It was a pro, and it was it exalted the military while absolutely destroying the military all at the same time. And I think the line at the end of the movie was Charles Bronson's line is, he says, "Boy, killing generals could get to be a habit with me," because usually it's the generals that order the soldiers out to die, And in this movie, it was the soldiers that got to kill all the generals. So it was like an anti-military, pro-military, anti-authority, and all the heroes were villains, psychopaths and mentally defective people, and there's just it was the worst possible selection of people you could pick to be in an organized squad of any kind. And the guy who did the graphics, the artwork on my children's reading book, Monster Football League, was actually Lee Marvin's publicist back before he retired. I think he's 93 now or 94. And Billy Barron was his name. So that's about my only connection is I stole his publicist. I'm going to get Billy Barron to try and draw me up some kind of Hawaii Volcano Squad artwork for a patch for my channel or a sticker, at least a decal or something. Because he's a great artist. He has to be motivated, and interested in it to do anything. So anyway, let's see what other war movies. Well, you got to like Operation Petticoat. I don't know if that's going to be on. That's another submarine movie. the Pink Submarine. Let's see. I was saying off air that on Forrest 10 from Navarone, that was Harrison Ford. They had signed him before Star Wars was released and became such a big box office, so they got him for cheap, and so that's why like the movie isn't, they didn't. It was kind of a low budget. I mean, they did have to pay money to go shoot up in the Alps. I think they shot that on location up there, Yugoslavia, but. Basically, the price tag for Harrison Ford went up considerably after Star Wars became such a big hit, and so they got him for cheap.
Rick over in the YouTube chat says the bridge over River Kwai. That's with Alec Guinness.
Yeah, that's another classic one. And for everybody that's seen Magnum PI, know that the Higgins character always was working on his little bridge.
Yeah, I never saw that movie, but I heard that in the movie, the British prisoners helped the Japanese build the bridge because the Japanese aren't doing it right, and the British prisoners are engineers or something like that, and they know how to do it the right way. But in reality, the British prisoners would not assist in something like that. It makes for good drama.
In the movie, what happened was the British commander decided that his men were falling into disorganized array of nothingness, and so to keep them as a functioning military unit, he had to give them some kind of work to do. So the obvious thing for him was here we have the perfect thing to prevent them from becoming just a disorganized group of subhumans is in keeping them in a military unit we'll just help build this bridge to keep the men's morale up, and then obviously somebody gets William Holden's character gets sent back after escaping from the prison to destroy the bridge that the colonels Alec Guinness is building, and and his character was like William Holden's character. The situation that he gets caught up in that film is absolutely hilarious. He escapes from the jungle prison camp, makes it down this river and is found floating out on a raft at sea. So it's a miracle to escape. But because when he was captured, he pretended to be an officer and took the identity of one of the lieutenants who had died, or the captains who had died in the attack that his ship had gone down in, and so he had decided to pretend to be an officer, and so when he gets back to like the real world, the real military, they figure out that he's actually not, they can't give him a medal because he's like impersonating an officer, but they can't like throw him in the brig because he just did like a miracle escape from this prisoner of war camp. So they give him to the British for this special suicide mission to blow up this bridge. Basically, he just broke out of the camp and they sent him right back to blow it up. And he was like, he was just so pissed at the British because he didn't have a choice. The U.S. military didn't want him and the British did. So it was like hot potato. And
that makes me think of another war movie, a Vietnam movie, Flight of the Intruder. They were sick of bombing all these suspected targets and things like that, and people dying and things like that. So what they did was they broke into was it S2 is intelligence? They broke into the intel, and they got maps, and they found where they stored all the SAM missiles in downtown Hanoi, and they decided that after a mission that they wouldn't use all their ordnance, and they'd turn and go to Hanoi and bomb this SAM site, and to hell with whatever happened to them. And they bomb where all the SAMs are being stored, and they make a hell of a mess. And when they get back to the ship, of course, they're busted. and they were going to court-martial him, but then they said, we're going to court-martial you for doing this a week after the president orders bombing of the North again. He goes, you guys
Operation
got real
Linebacker. Yeah, Operation Linebacker.
Nixon. Yeah. How can we throw the book at you when we're about to go ahead and do what you guys just did? So they got off easy. So that was a good movie, and it was based on the
William Dafoe.
novel.
That's a William Dafoe film, right?
Yeah. Yes, correct. Yes.
It was in Clear and Present Danger and Platoon, I think. What other good war films do we like that we haven't seen? Oh gosh!
Oh man, there's so many. I mean, trying to think of something, just whatever just pops right in my head. I mean, I typically go to the Vietnam films.
Well, I like Sahara with Humphrey Bogart, Battle of El Alamein. But another one for the Battle of El Alamein that since here's one I saw this weekend though. Before I get the El Alamein, I was going to say Richard Burton in The Desert Rats. I talked about it once before. A lot of people, that was a black and white film, and he plays a British colonel that gets put in charge of an Australian battalion, and that basically the German, when Rommel is pounding Tobruk, I think the fortifications at Tobruk, and but Sahara was the bogey movie where he's a tank commander, and he picks up some British infantry, and they find a well with like a little hut, and they kind of make a stand up against some Germans who are they kind of lure, they kind of lie, put out some false intel, and you tell the Germans that there's water in this in this well, and it's really just mostly a dry well, and so the Germans attack and try and whole German battalion tries to attack, just like I don't know what they have, 15 guys with one tank, and they try and fight off a whole battalion, but they want the Germans to think that there's water there so they could draw them into this pointless battle over some non-existent water. And anyway, in the end, a shell opens at the well. And of course, there's Casablanca. It's more of a life in a bar in Casablanca movie, but it's a World War II film. Can't beat that one. That's like a classic. And I lost my train of thought, so somebody take over for a while. I'm drinking rum and Coke. Here, let's see. I've got maraschino cherries.
Ohio 45 ACP brings up the Battle of Britain and Unbroken, which is the one about the Olympic runner ends up a Japanese POW. I think it was where they did a plane go down and they got rescued by a Japanese destroyer, I think. And he brings up 45 ACP. Ohio 45 ACP brings up again The Great Escape.
Oh yeah, Steve McQueen. Can't beat a Steve McQueen movie.
Rick's talking about Bridge Over the River Kwai again. Wasn't there a Korean War one called Bridges of Tokyo Ri? That's where they had some of the first Navy jets.
Yeah, that's the another William Holden film. He plays a fighter pilot, and the admiral, takes special interest in him. Here's my maraschino cherry on a sailfish.
And over on over on the YouTube side, a while back here, Patrick brought up a whole bunch of them. Patton, great film, haven't seen that in forever. The Dirty Dozen, great film. To Hell and Back, haven't seen that in forever. The Longest Day, I don't remember seeing that.
There was another movie I saw where they got where Steve Spielberg got the character for one of his Indiana Jones films from Short Round. The character Short Round from one of the Indiana Jones films. That was from another movie I saw over the weekend, a Korean War film, where they at the end they use this. It's basically a sergeant. The steel helmet. The steel helmet, and it was a sergeant who was in World War I and World War II, and in the Korean War. And he was saying about, what officers he would, he hit the beach at Normandy or something, and he said something about what kind of officer he would follow, and that's the kind of officer that he would give his helmet to, and some other officer that was there he wouldn't give his helmet to, and that officer they wind up using a Buddhist temple as an observation post to call in artillery on North Korean. I mean, here we are. It was a black and white film and steel helmet, and we're still fighting the damn Koreans war. What was the funny line from that? How do you tell the difference between a South Korean and a North Korean? I hope I don't screw up this line. If they're running at you, they're North Korean. If they're running with you, they're South Korean. Something like that. I probably got it wrong. But the character Short Round was from Steven Spielberg got that character from a kid that they had picked up. The sergeant that was hanging out with the sergeant that he had found and was trying to kind of let him hang around with him. And his name was Short Round. So Spielberg stole it. He admitted it. So anyway, here's my one of my maraschino cherries on my Remling coat. Puerto Rican Bacardi Gold. All right, I should look at the YouTubes and the gun channels, and so. But Bridge on the River Kwai was good. But the steel helmet, that was a good one I saw. And if somebody needs to go and turn on their videotape for submarine movies, I know that Squibb promised to explain to us the weaknesses and strengths, and if we're attacked by a M2 Bradley fighting vehicle, how we can defend ourselves. But I think
yeah.
Besides running away, which would be more. I read, the first time I read about the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle was when I read Tom Clancy novel, one of his books, Red Storm Rising. And that was about the Soviet invasion of Western Europe with, massed armor, armor columns. They would just throw one division after another. And of course, all the Bradleys had, heat, anti-armor tow missiles that they could fight, they could wipe out tanks with, so they sounded pretty impressive to me, but what do I know?
Okay. Well, I do not mind if I say something and somebody corrects me. Now, if it's an opinion, then it's an opinion. And then you're going to have to win me over. But if it's a fact, then, I either need to take somebody for the word for it that they know more about it than me, or I need to do some research myself. And that's good because that gets me to think and that gets me to verify. And it's always
okay. What did I screw up? What did I screw up? You're leading up to
No. You got me thinking. So you did me a favor by, pushing the whole, if a Bradley come rolling down the street, they can pretty much do whatever they want. And I went and did some research on them. Okay. They've changed a lot. So I remember when the Bradley came into service, and that was before I was in the military. I was still dependent. But I really wasn't too impressed with them because they had aluminum armor and they really didn't have that much in the way of weapon systems and whatnot. Before the first Gulf War, they had up armored these things, and they'd given they came up with a version that carried the TOW missile, which TOW stands for Tube Launched Optically Tracked Wire Guided Missile, and it's more or less an affordable anti-tank missile. You can use them on ground vehicles or aircraft. They just have to be slow moving, or I should say, be able to hover or stand still. You can't fire it on the move. The reason that I thought an M2 Bradley was not really a a big threat is because of the aluminum armor. And the reason I say that is the Marines use a amphibious tractor, Amtrak, and it's an armored personnel carrier like the Bradley, but it differs in the fact that it doesn't have a 25 millimeter Bushmaster main gun, for one thing, and for two, it's more amphibious. Some of the Bradleys, I think, are amphibious and some are not, but they don't have the capability. You're not going to roll a Bradley out of the back of an amphibious assault ship and have it storm up onto the beach. But the Bradley will take troops in places where maybe an Amtrak can't get, even though I've seen an Amtrak go up the side of a mountain. But the Amtrak is lightly armored with aluminum. It's got to be light to be able to float and whatnot. And they've made improvements to the Amtrak since I've been in, and they've up armored those as well. This still doesn't carry the armor or the firepower of the Bradley. And I did some research because of what you said, and I was really impressed with the improvements they've made to the Bradley recently. The Bradley was really meant to be a vehicle, one, that will take troops into combat, and then two, act as a scout vehicle. Now they've allowed the Bradley, it's still able to do that mission, but now they've employed stuff in there to help it defeat IEDs and to be able to take on an enemy that's attacking it with anti-tank weapons. And that's increased the survivability for the crew and for the infantry that's on board. And I really got to hand it to the government for, at least if what I'm reading is correct, these improvements are all, I understood exactly what everything was, and it all made a lot of sense. And I would say that the Bradley's weak point right now would be the same weak point for any tracked vehicle, and that is the treads. But it's even got something to deal with jamming radio signals to an IED, so you can't remote detonate an IED, because the easiest, cheapest way to probably detonate an IED is with a radio. But because putting some sort of pressure sensitive switch for a tank to drive onto or a truck to drive onto or something, that's too expensive, that's too complicated. They got to keep it simple and cheap. And if the new Bradleys, what I was reading is that they've got jammers, and it's short range, but they're jammers to interfere with the radio signal. So if it drives over an IED and the guy's pushing the button, ain't nothing going to happen. So, I mean, they're really thinking this stuff out, because you're taking the old technology, the Cold War scout vehicles, the Cold War troop transport, and you're bringing it up to, 21st century standards to fight in this new theater of operations. So I gotta say that you were right and I was wrong. Bradley is a bigger threat than I thought, and that aluminum armor is nothing to laugh at, because they've improved it more than once since they've had the Bradley. And they've moved around where they put the fuel now, and they've moved around where they put the extra ordnance now, and that sort of thing, where it would explode on the outside of the vehicle instead of inside the vehicle, and that increases crew survivability. So I really gotta hand it to the Army. They've got a pretty decent armored personnel carrier there.
Okay, that's my cell phone in the background. Sorry if you're hearing it. Anyway. Okay, well, the whole concept of when I brought it up wasn't, I mean, it was it basically is a scenario of when you would have to bug out is if, some rogue element of the National Guard decided to raid, some farms around Dusty's house and, loot the farms for any food or, in order to help their family by, raiding other farms and, gathering food in a long-term economic grid-down crisis. But and so whether or not he should ever have a plan to bug out or not, nobody wants to bug out. Sometimes you just don't have a choice. But so and the choice, the theory was, okay, so if you hear that there's like some group of soldiers from the National Guard, a rogue element that has gone berserk and decided they want to just raid farms, and they've got a Bradley fighting vehicle, could you try successfully try and fight it, or should you just bug out and let them, because your stuff is always isn't as important as your family and their lives. So I guess there's probably a way to defeat it, but I personally wouldn't try.
Well, let's see, if I went with the rationale of the mindset that I had, that these things have got early 80s aluminum armor and that's it. Or I could somehow make up some sort of IED and get it to drive over it and detonate it with a radio, then sure. But if it's this modern one, there's just no way. And I'm sure that they've probably retrofitted everything to 1990s standards at the very least. I would think that a high-powered hunting rifle would go through aluminum armor plate. But it's more there for shrapnel and that sort of thing, not really. But these things they're up armored and that sort of thing. The only thing I could think of that you might be able to do is to dig a pit, cover it with something, and trick them into driving into it. And you'd have to have a pit so steep that when it fell in, it's not going to get back out. But I don't think you're going to be able to fool them into doing that sort of thing.
Well, a pit trap with a proper amount of camouflage, if you knew it was coming, wouldn't. Yeah,
that's just it. Or if there was some way you could lure them down that path. But so here's the deal. I'm gonna borrow one from DB Cooper. So let's say they are coming down my street. They know that maybe my house is the only one with lights on, or they've been interrogating my neighbors, and they say he's the only guy who's got food. He's got a garden. We know he's got water. He's been in the back purifying water, or he's got guns and ammo.
He's got 10 pounds of rice. He got 10-pound rice bags buried in his backyard.
Yeah. Or they said it seems to be this guy's the only guy in the street with any supplies. If they roll up with that Bradley, and they get on, I don't even know if they had a megaphone or somebody just opened the hatch and started yelling at me, they've got to decide: do we want to fight this guy inside of his house? Do we want to go in there? And if they want to get all the things I have, they can't destroy my house. They can try to shoot, at the house and stuff like that, but they risk destroying whatever it is that I have that's so valuable. So probably their best bet is to throw tear gas in here and to get me to give up from the tear gas. Now, if they don't have tear gas, or I've got a gas mask I'm able to hold out or something, then they've got to decide: do we want to go in there and fight him man to man? Right? They're gonna open the back hatch, and the guys are gonna come out, and they're gonna try to shoot their way in here and do the least amount of damage to my home because they don't want to damage any of the things in the house that they want, and try to take me out. Or do they say screw it and go on, or do they turn the Bushmaster and turn my house to Swiss cheese and lose all these assets inside the house that they were?
Well, I will say that right? For Dusty, this is good news because he has a tractor, and if he knows that there's a rogue element with a badly fighting vehicle, he could just dig a gigantic pit, in his driveway, coming up to into his farm, and get him to drive down into it. And if he camouflages it, well enough so that they don't see it, then the whole thing will just fall into a ditch. And then, he's seeking.
I think some post-apocalyptic rogue military element makes good fiction, but I don't think it'd really happen. There's too many patriots in our military, and even if it was a SHTF situation, I just don't think that they would. I don't think they'd turn on the American people. I'm not saying that they wouldn't. You got to understand.
Scrounging. I'm talking about scrounging food.
Man, they got so much. They get sick of MREs, but I'm telling you, they got MREs. They got stuff like that. They would probably ask for help before they took it. I have trouble looking and seeing our military, even in a, economic collapse, government collapse situation, going, all right, we're going to just take, these guys are professionals. I'm not saying you don't ever have any bad apples, but I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have used our force to take, but I might have gone to a civilian population and said, hey man, can you spare some food for a Marine? That sort of thing.
All right, well, I better stop making videos with gold bullion in it so nobody raids me, because they might not do it for food. But anyway,
they gotta fight their way uphill to get to you.
Yeah,
so you got the vantage. You got the high ground. You got the vantage point. So
well,
you want to throw some camo netting up on the balcony.
Well, I'll tell you if the shit hits the fan, and in the Weimar Republic, one solid gold mark would buy, at the end of the money printing disaster and hyperinflation, one piece of gold would buy 1 trillion marks. So if I have like 300 trillion worth of precious metals, then I'm gonna have to call on some people from gun channels to come and escort me to a bank. and I'll pay them each like 1 trillion of or one piece of metal for their help. So everybody will be a trillionaire on gun channels. How's that sound?
Well, a trillionaire in foreign money, but
well, whatever. Yeah, that was the Weimar Republic, German marks. Speaking of which, Chancellor Merkel, Angela Merkel, said Europeans can't trust Americans or Britons anymore. It's getting crazy. Should we go into politics, or should we just stick to movies?
yeah, I'd say stick to movies.
Okay.
And then I can screen share some of my shooting this afternoon.
Your what?
My shooting this afternoon.
Shooting. Oh, well, okay. What were you shooting?
And stuff like that. So
you cut out. Can you say that again, please?
I have about a 50-second video of shooting a 450 Bushmaster suppressed.
Share it if we can. Please, I'd love to see it.
So how do we do it? Let's see if I can bring it up here.
Yeah, if you can bring it up, I'll present you your thing. If you can bring it up. Of course, we won't hear any audio from a screen shared video, but we can see what you're doing. So just go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. Let me hit.
All right. Why do I have want my pictures?
I have it locked on you. Oh. Now you're.
Oh my!
You've fallen into it's like what's going to happen to the U.S. dollar. It's going to be a little bit smaller every time they print more. So we're locked on Dusty right now. I have Dusty set to present. This is live.
I don't want a telescope like this. I want the picture.
Well, you're supposed to screen. You're screen sharing the Google page, not you're supposed to screen share your video, not the Google page, not the Hangout. You're screen sharing the Hangout.
Can you go into your
Okay, well, how do I
Can you minimize your Hangout? Go up in your upper right and minimize your Hangout. Minimize all your Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, whatever you're using, and then click on your pictures. Right click and use. I got to go back in myself. It was I think it was a picture viewer. Let's see. Open folder, right click, open with, Windows Photo Viewer. Oh, wait, you're doing video though, right? You're not doing a picture.
Well, I
You're
had
doing
some
picture or
pictures
video?
too, so.
Well, you can try a picture first, I guess. Video, I guess you do Windows Media Player. I don't know, I haven't screen shared a video.
All right, let's try the. Okay, so.
In between the bad internet and.
Yeah.
Keep going at it, Dusty.
More bandwidth.
Come on, Dusty. You can do it. I think Dusty would have more luck fighting off an M2 Bradley fighting vehicle than he would trying to screen share this video.
I guess I don't know how to find my file to.
Well, you just turn it on. I mean, you have to like click on it if it's a photo and bring it up in Photo Viewer, and then you click on the green arrow in the Hangout, and then you can select the file, the Photo Viewer page, And if it's a video, you just play the video on Windows Media Player, and then you just screen share the media player. But you were screen sharing the Google Hangout. Anyway, so we're like kind of lamely replacing Matt's never enough ammo chat today because he was off today for Memorial Day, I guess. And
no, his back's bothering him.
His back's bothering him? Oh, I'm sorry.
He's had some back problems, yeah. Yeah, which I want to ask him, Matt, how are you going to move to Idaho if your back hurts? Because that's a lot of stuff you got to pack in a moving van, dude. I mean, I know it's the end of the year, but
never enough.
You better go see a doctor.
Never enough Aleve painkillers if you're gonna have to pack all that ammo into a truck.
I can tell you, if we're all getting nothing but older, so having to pack up and move. I did talk to somebody about that, and they said he's gonna sell his safe and buy another one there, in which case he could have one delivered or something like that. So that's not a bad idea, actually.
Okay, well, if he could get some help, he lives near the border, so he could get some help and oh shit, Dusty, you just fucked up. You had your thing on there, and then well, he could, what he could do is he could hire some Mexican labor, and then he could change his channel to Never Enough Mexicans. And but anyway, that's the Stone Guy racist comment of the day.
So he can get the moving van packed in Brownsville, but once he gets up to Idaho, he's going to have to, I don't know who he's going to hire to unload it, but yeah.
Just roll by a Home Depot and pick up whoever's there.
Yeah, I saw that video too.
Gosh.
Yeah, no, I just hope his back gets better.
Well, yeah, my dad has back problems too, and it's a spinal disc, and he had to have epidermal shot once a year or something like that, and bothers him. But he's just glad to be walking around. He had his bypass when he was 59, and he's like 75, 76 now. Wow, my dad's getting up there.
Back problems are some serious stuff.
Yeah, because you have to, in order to stay alive, you have to walk around, move around, go for a walk every day, and it hurts. Especially he walks the dog, and he has to bend down to pick up the dog poop. When the dog takes a dump, and that hurts. So if you got a spinal, spine that disc that has just gone bad over the years. But anyway, we were on the chat after Edge's chat. All like Garand and everybody that had any kind of heart circulation issue, and we're all talking about that stuff after Edge's, I think 2 weeks ago. It was pretty funny in the after chat.
Everybody in gun channel, well, I shouldn't say everybody, there's a lot of people in gun channels with heart issues. What's up?
Well, it's the most common ailment in America. I mean, and I think at this point getting a bypass is almost as common as getting a tonsillectomy. I guess we should all move to Asia and just eat fish, instead of barbecue. I barbecued a veggie burger that I got at Costco, and I said what kind it was, and I typed it in the Daily Show chat when somebody asked. It wasn't Morningstar, but it was some organic farm, and they were like, they demoed them out at Costco, so I bought like a bunch of them, and basically I made a veggie burger with sautéed onions and some red leaf lettuce, and I ate the beans that I also cooked the beans that I used in my beans, bullets, and bouillon video today. So the Bush, what are they? The Bush grilling beans, the bourbon and maple syrup. I think it was what it was, flavored. So next trip to the store, I'll buy some more beans to make up for the beans that I ate. So because I think beans are a pretty good prepping item. Anyway, so has Dusty been able to do anything, or have you given up, Dusty?
To give up.
Okay.
I'm over in the live chat on the YouTube side with Jared talking about how to defeat a Bradley.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you guys can figure it out and clue us all in, so we know what to do just in case one comes rolling down the street.
You get a combat engineer and aviation ordnance guy together. We're bound to blow something up. So.
Well, we don't have a helicopter. I mean, all I have is like 2 4-pound.
You do not have to hang it off of an aircraft to get it to go off.
Yeah, I have 2.
You just need a car battery.
I have 2 4-pound binary charges. So I don't think that might be enough to take off a track, but I have to expose myself, to shooting it to set off, the. To set off shockwave binaries.
It's not
What are you doing? What are you doing?
He's simulating the movie Vertigo. Vertigo was not a war movie. We're not going to talk about Vertigo.
I'm gonna have to take some time off work and drive over to Coldwater and work on your computer, man. And I'm not even a computer guy.
This is not working. I'm about ready just to send them on hangers.
Oh, there it is. Oh, we almost saw your rifle for a second there. Okay, now just don't do anything for a minute. Don't even talk.
Okay.
All right. So can everybody see Dusty's rifle? Now you can talk about your rifle now. Don't do anything else. Don't press any buttons, whatever you do.
Okay.
So what are we looking at?
There's 2 you should be looking at 2 guns, right?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Check.
Okay. They're both 450 Bushmasters. One has a suppressor on it, and the other is just a standard barrel. One's mine, one's my brother-in-law's. The one with the suppressor has a 14-inch barrel because the fact that suppressor is so long, and mine has an 18-inch barrel.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's see if I can go find another picture here.
So the caliber of this is what?
450 Bushmaster.
450 Bushmaster caliber. So is that big enough to punch through a Bradley fighting vehicle armor?
The old one.
The old one.
Really old one.
You've got you've got a 45 caliber bullet that you're shooting at about 2,000 to 2,100 feet per second.
That's pretty fast for a 45 ACP kind of a bullet.
Yes. And the reason we built these guns is that's one of the largest calibers allowed now in Michigan for deer hunting.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a straight wall, correct?
That's a straight wall, and it's less than 1.1 inch, which Michigan's deer law says a straight wall cartridge less than 1.1 inch length, which I think a 458 SACOM would also fall in, but like a 500 will not fall in to be legal.
Okay, show us another picture.
500 Smith & Wesson? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're done playing Vertigo.
Okay. Those are my first
your midway box.
2 shots with my gun since I built it. And that's at 100 yards.
All
So
right.
that was before I even messed with the scope or anything. So I was really happy with an out-of-the-box upper that I bought.
Okay.
Which
big holes.
either one of those, I'd have been dragging a deer home.
Yeah, those are big holes.
Well, that's a 45 caliber. That's the hole.
Okay. Next
All right,
picture.
now I'm not sure if this will work, but let's try it.
I think it will. I think you're doing the right thing.
I'm just happy that we're not all
Okay.
experiencing vertigo again.
Now we're trying to load a video.
Okay.
Anything is. Oh, here it is. You're probably gonna have to go up there and click the. Go up there and click the. Was it expand? The box between the red X and the line. There we go.
Okay, so that's you shooting the rifle?
Everybody turn their monitors. There we go.
Everybody turn the monitor sideways.
That's my
But just
brother-in-law
turn your head
shooting.
to the left. Pretend you're a left-leaning judge and turn your head to the left. That's your brother-in-law shooting, okay?
Okay.
What's in the box? Not a war
The
movie.
box is
All
a
right.
bunch of empty shells. Okay, is this one up yet?
Yeah, they're in the case. It's a hard case.
Yes. This is the gun. This is the gun I thought was a riot to shoot. This is a 300 Blackout with a suppressor on it. And I loved that gun, which it's also my brother-in-law's gun, but that was fun to shoot. And then he had like a Vortex red dot scope on it. And that was a fun gun.
Now that one we can't use down here to deer hunt, but we can use it on the up north, right? Above US 10.
Right, you can use that up north, but it will not qualify for the shotgun zone, which where I live is the shotgun zone.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if I had emo. Oh, this one's cute. This isn't a. I probably shouldn't even. Well, maybe, but the dog did not like all the noise.
No, I've seen that they actually have hearing protection systems for dogs. So,
Yeah.
Wingman did a video on one. There's some videos. There's some systems specifically designed for dogs.
But he wore the earphones okay. He didn't even try to knock them off.
Dogs are so awesome. I'm such a dog person.
Okay, I think that's all of them.
All right. Well, we won't turn it into a dog photo contest, but because we started out with war movies. But we can do dog sharing, screen sharing photos off air. But all right. So, is there any other talk in the gun channels or YouTube external about war movies, or have we?
Me and
What
Jared
was the
are
one
talking
with Henry
about
Winkler?
playing with things that go boom. Henry Winkler was in a war movie?
Yes, I've been trying the whole time. You guys been trying to think of the name of it, and I cannot think of the name of it. But it was a very gory war movie, and it would have come out in the late 70s.
Oh, vey. All I remember is Happy Days.
Well, he did a war movie too, and I cannot think.
And he wasn't playing Fonzie in this war movie. Take it.
No, he wasn't Fonzie.
God, when I was a kid, I actually went to a Happy Days shoot set to see them shoot one of their shows. That was funny.
I don't know if I'd Google that, if I'd find it or not. remember-
Probably.
It would have been in the late 70s, 78, 79, that it came out. Because I can remember going to the theater to watch it.
Clay says this segment of Lock and Load brought to you by Midway USA.
It is?
Yeah, because of Dusty's box that he was shooting at.
Oh, right.
Hey, I use Midway myself, amongst other companies. They've got good stuff for a good price. The
Now, with the
bayonet
shipping to Hawaii,
I got from Midway.
I basically don't do too much mail order, unless I have to because of the shipping to Hawaii the problem. But well, by the way, we've been dealing with king tides over here in Hawaii, a combination of wind, rising sea levels and monsoons, or just and like there's been a lot of shoreline flooding. They call it king tides. It hasn't been this high in like the high tides like 110 years, apparently. So I imagine Pearl Harbor will have, very high, all the Hawaiian Islands have very high water levels right now. So, but I'm like my condo's like 100 feet up or more like almost 150 feet plus. Then I'm on the 3rd floor on top of that. So.
Okay, it was Heroes.
Heroes?
Heroes that come out in 1977.
All right. What was it about, and why did you like it? Other than
It was a
Fonzie
Vietnam.
was in it.
Okay, let's see. A troubled Vietnam veteran, Henry Winkler, with plans for a worm farm, meets a girl, Sally Fields, and hops a bus to California.
A worm farm?
A worm farm.
Jesus, that's
In other words,
to survive Vietnam, just to have a worm farm. I guess everybody has their strange post-war fantasies, but
he did actually. He came back with some post-war traumas. Worm farms are popular.
I don't even like to see people eat worms on Naked and Afraid, but they fry them for
fishing bait from somewhere. Somebody raises those worms that get sold in the store.
Well,
for
their
fishing
protein.
Bait.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people eat them on Naked and Afraid, but as long as they, that's the part of it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, we've got a Forged in Fire champion in Kona now, Kona, Hawaii. We a local knife maker, won, I think, on like last week or the week before show. Hey, there's a screen share I can manage. Let's see. Give me a second to dig it up. I have to go to that damn paper that I hate, the Commie Pinko rag sheet, but it was a news story in there, so let me try and find the West Hawaii Today. Where is he?
By the way, Ohio 45 ACP was the one who caught the title of the movie. So, thanks, Ohio.
Yeah, thanks. I'm like all out of free stuff to give away. I mean, all I've got is like the Kona Guns stickers. I'm out of like Gun Channels patches, I think, because I've been giving them away for.
He said he's going to print up another batch of them. So.
Oh, G-Webs?
Yeah. I was asking in the chat on the Daily Gun Show today, hey, man, when are you going to make some more stickers? Because I'll buy a 10-pack if he makes them.
Yeah, I bought some and I just gave them away for, questions that I, we'd have if I had a quiz on my show. But
hey, Dusty, which car is yours? Which car do you shoot?
P9.
P9. Okay, and that was the one that they did for the gun of the day today, I believe. Was the P9?
Oh, it was.
Or was it a PM9? PM9?
No. Well, there is. That's the newer series. Mine is a P9.
Okay.
Mine's an older gun. The PM.
Okay, I wanted to show this guy in his shop.
A lot of the.
If you guys don't mind for a second. Neil Kamimura creates a blade at his industrial area shop. That's about half a mile from my house, if it's where I think it is. And there he is teaching his son, Maddox, the art of blade making at his shop. There, he's got a forge there. And here he is. So he was on Forged in Fire just recently. And I'll show you his blade. So I haven't checked this guy out yet. But here's the one he made for the show.
That one looks like it's for sacrificing people on an altar.
It's.
Sheesh.
Wait a minute. Let me get back to it. Come on, you stupid thing. I swear West Hawaii today can't do anything right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's called a, well, you can see what it is. It's called a Cinquedea. Cinquedea? So basically how that show works is you go into the forge at their headquarters where they shoot the show, and they, you have like a really short time to make like a blade before them, and then they start with 4 contestants, and the first 2 rounds they eliminate one of the 4 bladesmiths in each round, and the final 2 go to their home forge at their home, and they have an assignment to build a blade out of history. So if you want to see exactly what the purpose of, just Google Cinquedea, and you could find out the history behind that particular blade. But so then they have 5 days, and the reason it's hard is because of the time pressure. On the show they have like 2 3-hour segments in each of the first 2 rounds, and then they test the blades, and looking for faults, and the 2 best blades move on. And so the same thing in the last round. And they do. It's really fun. They have like they have a kill test, a sharpness test, and they've got Doug Marcada, and they from he's got a channel on YouTube, and he's like a Cali martial artist, and they've got some other bladesmiths I was mentioned here, but the winner gets $10,000. So that blade earned him $10,000. So I imagine his shop will have some new forging gear, or maybe an anvil that's not broken at least. That's what he said he started with. An old forge and a broken anvil that somebody donated. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that somebody from Kona, Hawaii actually was champion, Forge and Fire champion. So anyway, keeping it Hawaiian. So I'm going to have to visit this guy's shop. I'm thinking about going to a local butcher shop like 50 yards away from my house and seeing if I could take any of my knives and do like a meat chopping or bone chopping test with any of them just for fun, But anyway, I'll check out this guy's shop, see if he's going to get into knife making anymore, because he's relatively newcomer according to this little bio that they wrote up on him. But anyway, all right, I'll stop that screen share. All right. So are there any other war movie comments or war movies that we missed that we should have talked about? Or are we going to do a submarine segment next week and you need to go tape all these shows or something? Or is the internet connectivity so bad that I'm the only person that can hear me talking? Go look at the comments.
I was muted.
Run Silent, Run Deep. Yeah. I think that's another Cary Grant one. No, wait. Run Silent, Run Deep. Is that... is Run Silent, the Deep the one with Burt Lancaster in the Bungo Straits? Is that one? Destination Tokyo was Cary Grant as the captain. Torpedo Run, Operation Petticoat. Jesse James is out there. All right, well, I think that we need to assign Dusty the role of practice. He needs to do a practice. He needs to practice digging a tank trap with his tractor.
Okay.
For the next show.
We'll do.
No, literally, he's got a big farm. Literally, what we do is he has to take a video. First, you have to go to his house and show him how to use the video camera or his computer. But then, he needs to like practice digging a tank trap, in less than an hour with his tractor. What's wrong with that?
They have bridge layer tanks, so.
Well, I know, but we're talking about camouflaging a tank trap.
Okay, we're not talking about just digging a really long trench. Or... Oh, well, what are we going to use for the tank?
Well, you don't have to. We're just practicing now. We aren't going to actually, we could use your truck. How's that? But no, it's you don't have to have a tank to dig a tank trap. It's just a practice thing. You could build a mock-up tank, a cardboard one. You want?
Does it have to be a full-fledged tank, or could it be any armored track vehicle? I mean, you have to be very specific here.
Well,
anybody got a surplus M113 for sale?
Well, we did a show where we found some tanks on you watched it, that one with the bug out vehicles, and there are some tanks on eBay if you go looking, but I don't want to.
Right.
I'm not trying to bump up the cost. I just trying to. You could build one for cardboard for purposes of the trap, and just put a cardboard tank and push it into the tank trap. See for a test, but. The whole thing is how fast can you dig a tank trap if you had to? And okay, you could call it an M2 Bradley fighting vehicle trap instead of a tank trap.
Hey, all right. You know what? If it's how fast can you dig a tank trap if you have to, here's what you do: run, because you're not going to dig it that fast. I don't care if you have a backhoe or not.
Well, I think it's important to know that if you do have a backhoe, how long does it take? Because I know it'll take too long if all you have is a shovel. But if you have a backhoe, sound effect, somebody getting drunk, or let me.
Nope, that's me pouring another glass of water. I tried to put my finger over my mic, but it picks up background sounds really well. No, I drink water during the podcast because my throat goes dry.
Oh, I drink rum and coke during the podcast because my throat goes dry.
Well, you can do that. You don't have to go to a job in the morning.
All right.
I'm just collecting my pension in gold. I'm waiting for waiting for it to hyperinflate to some $1 trillion per ounce.
So I'm talking about digging a long trench to stop a tank instead of a pit. And Patrick says a long trench. Don't install a thermal exhaust port.
Star Wars, right? We get it. Yeah, you don't want any X-wing fighters blowing up Dusty's farm. So, bud as in beer drinking, or bud as in the kind that grows on a plant? You don't have to answer that question, Patrick. The NEA or. Well, what was that? By the way, I heard on the news that the FISA court dissed the National Security Administration for overzealous, injudicious bugging of or wiretapping without any standards or any oversight at all. Yeah, so. That's the court with that has no oversight over it. Basically, nobody issued any warrants, and the National Security Administration is just wiretapping everybody and his brother. So, yeah, don't answer that question. If somebody comes on here and asks you if you're doing something illegal or what kind of bud you drink or smoke, you don't have to tell them. But Budweiser is not illegal, so. All right. On that note.
Yeah, but Budweiser could stop the tank.
Oh, well, yeah.
In the past, with a case of Bud, they wouldn't run you over. They'd stop the tank. Then, not only would you have Budweiser, but you would have new friends with a tank.
Or they would? You mean they wouldn't just shoot you with their tank and then there'll be a big hole through your body, but the Budweiser will just fall to the ground. Then they'll drink it.
because you gotta have one with your buds. But now here's the thing: we could roll the whole movie thing into it. You could actually buy the tank from him, like Oddball did at the end of Kelly's Hero.
Oh yeah, who buys a German tank?
Yeah, just
that leaks all over the place.
Yeah, he's like, the damn thing leaks everywhere and stuff. Yeah, but you got the gold, so go ahead and buy the tank from him. Maybe what did Don Rickles say?
Don Rickles. Maybe I'm a Republican.
Negotiate with him. Maybe he's a Republican.
Yeah, and it turns out he was. Don Rickles passed away very recently, unfortunately. Great loss. He was another one of the stars in Kelly's Heroes, and he passed away recently. That he was so good in that as Crab Game. But again, that movie they took out all the studio edited out all the anti-war stuff and left in all the comedy. So you got a heavy dose of Don Rickles. I just love the part that kind of applies to prepping is when they make Don Rickles carry around the 30 caliber machine gun. Thing is heavier than Kelsey's burgers. And he starts trying to offer people money to carry it for him. I'll give you $100 if you carry this machine gun. You got it on you? No. Well, what do you know? You think I'm a vault? You think I carry money on me? And nobody would help him carry the damn machine gun. But then when they come across a bunch of Germans, he gets to shoot with the 30 caliber. So that's like the center of the line. So it's not a bad weapon if you have to fight with to have, but yeah, it's heavy as shit. Carry around everywhere.
That was a 30 cal machine gun. It's a crew serve weapon. You got to have the tripod, and your assistant gunners be feeding you ammo, and yes, it's a lot to carry.
Yeah, and basically it was really funny the part where after they get bombed by their own Air Force, Don Rickles' character Crab Game is like, yeah, we were supposed to ride, not walk. Nobody said anything about minefields, schlepping the 30 caliber machine gun all over the country. It was so funny.
That's why you do a forced march, or we always called them a hump, with all your gear. So if you ever had a situation where you weren't riding in the back of a Humvee or in an armored personnel carrier or helicopter, you could walk with it.
And then when Oddball has to get a bridging equipment, he calls up the bridging guy, and the bridging guy gets a band to carry the bridging equipment.
Did he say they've even got the damn grave diggers working or something?
Oh yeah, that's with Carol O'Connor on the right before the intermission on the radio, trying to find out what is happening on the battlefield, because apparently the general calls him up, the commanding Eisenhower calls him up to congratulate him for breaking through on a whole new front, and he doesn't know anything about it. He says the old man was on the horn. He just told me we've broken through on an entirely new front. How come I wasn't told?
He grabs his Tommy gun and goes, "Get my Jeep. I'm going to the Rhine." he's just wanted to charge forward.
I'm going to decorate the every man in this penetration, whoever they are. They save the reputation of this entire army.
The two guys are building the bridge, and they're trying to hurry up to get over because they want to get to the gold. And he comes rolling up in the Jeep and goes, "I got a couple of medals in the Jeep for you." And he goes, "Great, couple medals."
$16 million shot. But Carol O'Connor was pretty good in that movie too. I mean, they had a great cast. Donald Sutherland.
At the end, he's going, "Man, what are they saying? They think you're De Gaulle, sir. De Gaulle? He's not even in this war." It was great. It really was. And they put Kilroy was here on the wall. It was a great movie. Yeah.
Did you ever wonder watching that movie if Saddam Hussein, this was his favorite movie and that's how he got the idea to invade Kuwait? Because he wanted to rob their bank.
Oh no, the whole Kuwait thing was stewing long before that. It wasn't like just a ploy to make more money.
Well, he was out of money, and yeah, I know the oil fields,
load of
the
money.
slanted drilling, and all that shit. But whatever.
And that was their 19th province or something or whatever. They never really recognized Kuwait. They always thought it was their property, and he owed the Kuwaitis money. So what's the best way to,
Yes. Well, they think Israel is their property too, and they probably think Hawaii is their property too, for all I know. And I advise Iraqis never to invade Hawaii. So that's that. I'll be waiting. That's what I'm doing. I'm waiting for them to move in and invade Hawaii. Then I'll move in and stop them. Oh. Yeah, you can, some of these movies you just remember all the lines, all the good lines,
Yeah.
But
How many
what was
dozen movies did they make?
Oh, a few, follow-ups, but I mean, Lee Marvin was definitely, but that had a good cast too. Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson,
Kennedy. I'm trying to think of his name. George Kennedy?
Yeah.
Didn't it have Jim Brown?
Oh yeah. That was in the movie theaters when that came out, people were would all stand up when he's making the run and to detonate all the underground grenade little things that all the air ducts filled with grenades and gasoline. What was the name of the character that Jim Brown played?
I can't remember. I can't remember any of the character names from Dirty Dozen. Wait, I remember Maggot.
You remember Telly Savalas' character, yeah.
Telly Savalas.
Oh, and that had one of my favorite lines too. It's like, somebody keep that cheap whaling slug quiet. They were playing a record of another German actress who I can't remember. What was the name of Jim Brown's character? Somebody on YouTube's got to know, or Gun Channels for sure. When the Jim Brown's character in The Dirty Dozen. Let's see if anybody wrote it down. Because in the movie theaters, in the movie, everybody would stand up and scream for him to somebody Google it or something real quick. Okay, they're gonna make me Google it. Let's see. No, it wasn't Robert Jarrett. Let's see.
The Dirty Dozen. Jefferson,
that was it. Yeah, so basically everybody in the movie theater would be like, "Come on, Jefferson! Come on, Jefferson!" And Lee Marvin was that was his line. When he tells him to set him off, and so everybody in the movie theater would stand up and scream, "Come on, Jefferson!" And so it's one of those. Oh yeah, that was a good line. We Patrick's the line from Kelly's Heroes. We have paint shows to paint pretty pictures. Scares the hell out. What he said was, I think it makes pretty pictures, and that was the whole thing about him. The double meaning was pretty motion pictures. Then they were talking about the movie, that they were really shooting, but it also, anyway, it was a double meaning line. So, there's a lot of that in that movie. But, so did we miss any important war movies? If we missed anything, we'll never hear the end of it.
Oh,
Midway. I haven't seen Midway, but that was one. I mean,
how about All's Quiet on the Western Front?
Oh yeah, that was one. but I haven't seen that in so long. God.
It's with Dominic Santini and John Boy.
How about the Blue Max? George Peppard, before he was on the A-Team, he was a German fighter pilot in World War One.
No, I didn't know that one.
You've never seen the Blue Max?
No.
Wow. Yeah, that's George Peppard plays a peasant in the infantry that wanted to be a fighter pilot. So he, because he just didn't want to slog it out in the trenches in the mud in World War One, and he would see all the planes flying over, and they look, So he kind of got to fly. Basically, the peasants were the infantry, and the upper class were the fighter pilots. Like Baron von Richthofen, right? So that was his idol, and Baron von Richthofen. So he got the training and became a fighter pilot, and then he tried to be he tried to beat all the upper class. What's the word for the German upper class? Aristocracy, German aristocracy. And there were princes, and like Baron von Richthofen was a baron, and so, but he was still a peasant no matter what he did, and he steals away one of the other fighter pilots' women, and they get into like a who's the best fighter pilot bullshit, and he tries to one up everybody, and the ultimate one-upsmanship is this German medal that like one of the fighter pilots has, or two. Very few people have it. It's called the Blue Max, and you have to shoot down 50 planes or something to get it. And apparently he claims somebody else's kills as his own, and the F-14s are about to splash the zeros. Somebody's watching Final Countdown. Anyway, so he claims some kills that aren't his, and the girl the aristocracy girl turns him into like a general who at his ceremony to give him the Blue Max. The commanding general calls up and wants the whole thing stopped, but it's too late. And so they test him. So how the general solves the problem, because he can't stop the ceremony of him being awarded the Blue Max, is they have a new monoplane fighter that they're testing, and he sends up and George Peppard's character is supposed to go up and test it after he gets his medal, but he sends up the experienced squadron commander to test it, and the squadron commander comes down and says the wing loading is all wrong, the struts aren't strong enough. I'm lucky I got down alive. And so he sends up George Peppard's character, who just got his Blue Max, to fly the plane for the crowd. And he says, "Let's see some real flying." And so, he opens the book, because he doesn't want this guy to be court-martialed, because it'll be bad for German morale. So, you hear the struts crack as he's doing some kind of high-speed maneuver, and you hear the plane crashing to the ground, and he picks up this signature stamp for Luftwaffe general or whatever, and as the plane crashes into the ground, he stamps the file closed and gives the file to his assistant, says, "Give this to General so-and-so, it's the file of a German hero." And so, he gets killed basically because for making a false claim on a fighter kill that belongs to somebody else, and his aristocratic lover had turned him into the general because he insulted her or something, But whatever. It's a Blue Max. It's one of the great movies. It was Peppard's first gigantic role, and it's worth saying, and then that was before that. After that, he got into the A-Team, obviously, but this was his first, and it was a big film.
Hey, wait a minute. George Peppard's best film was Damnation Alley, hands down.
Well, you haven't seen the Blue Max, so,
Well, that's true, but still. When I think of George Peppard.
Okay,
I
now
think of the
back
Landmaster
to the Budweiser thing. Okay, I forgot to say something. What you do is you build a big tank trap, you build a big ditch, and you fill it with Budweiser, and then the people in the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle, they just drown in Budweiser. Like, what a way to go! Drowned in a Bradley fighting vehicle by beer. Okay.
No.
Well, so before next Memorial Day, you have to see the Blue Max.
I guess so.
So you've got a whole year. I'm sure it'll be on cable, so you don't have to buy it, But that was a great war movie, and it was basically, about the German fighter pilot, the peasant versus the aristocracy. The peasant who wanted to be, prove that he was just as good as the aristocrats or better by winning the little Blue Max medal.
Do you count Cold War movies?
Sure. Any war movie you want to talk about.
Well, yeah, but Cold War, there wasn't really a shot fired in anger per se.
Well, I don't know about that, but
well, I mean, you could say the proxy wars or the few times that
the Hunt for Red October,
shooting back and forth. Yeah, when I think of Cold War movies, I think of Strategic Air Command with Jimmy Stewart.
There were some spy movies.
It showed what America was willing to do to protect itself in the 50s. Or Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, well, that's a classic.
Or By the Dawn's Early Light with Powers Booth. That was good. That was really good, I thought.
Ice Station Zebra.
Yeah.
Rock Hudson.
Yeah.
I think I saw that when I was a kid. I think I saw Ice Station Zebra. My dad took me to see that in a drive-in when they still had drive-ins. I remember seeing that in a drive-in theater when I was a kid. Rogue One is a war movie. Rogue One is a Star Wars movie.
War.
Well, it does say war, but it's science fiction. Come on, it's space. Go ahead.
Siege that was with Steven Seagal in a sub.
Yeah, but that's not in a battleship. Oh, there's a sub in there. There was a sub in there. Gary Busey, I think, played the crazy executive officer of the battleship. Was working with the bad guys. All right. Have we missed anything else in war movies that we should talk about before we close it out for this week? Let's see.
How about The Patriot for the Revolutionary War?
Okay, that's a war movie, I guess. I mean, he uses a tomahawk.
Yeah. I would call The Outlaw Josie Wells a Civil War movie because it takes place at the end of the Civil War.
Well, it's more of a Western, but
Yeah.
the war is over by the time when the film starts, the war is over. I mean, so I don't know how
the war's ending. The last people are starting. There were units still fighting months and months after the war ended.
Well, some people think the Civil War has not ended, so whatever. But here we are, quite a bit later.
Rise again.
Well, I'm in Hawaii, so whatever.
Yeah, the Kingdom of Hawaii.
Well, that won't rise again, I promise you. No matter how many protesters protest for it, or protest telescopes. Go ahead.
I just watched another one last week. that was set in the Desert War. I can't even think of the name of it, but it had Steven Seagal in it too. Oh, let's see. I can't bring it up.
Michael Biehn and Charlie Sheen and Navy SEALs.
Navy SEALs.
That was a good movie.
Well, my favorite line from that movie is "Fuck his order."
Well, I mean, if you want to do a SEAL movie for a war movie, then American Sniper.
I don't think I ever got around to seeing that one.
It's good. It's really good.
It just got so much hype. I was like, it got so much, military kind of hype. I was like, it's not my, I like movies to be good because there's good actors, a plot, a great story, good acting, good directing, and not just because there was what?
I thought the acting was good.
I did too.
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it. I saw the last movie I saw was you could call it a war movie. It was King Arthur, the Legend of the Sword, and it was basically Arthur is haunted by this Excalibur sword that he's had all of his life after he pulled it out of the rock, but he can't get it to do anything. And basically, it just fucks with his mind, and the only thing that the only time the sword is of any use is if he's actually fighting for Britain with the sword. That's the only time it'll actually work, and it's amazing, he's basically in the movie. I saw it in 3D, and all the 3D sword fighting, it's pretty cool. But the basically when he finally uses the sword fighting for Britain, then first thing he has to do is regain the Camelot from his uncle Vortigern and the Black Leg troops that he commands. And basically, when he's fighting at Camelot, he stops time. That the sword can basically stop time to the point where all the other soldiers moving in slow motion, and so he could just move all around them and chop off people's limbs and arms and legs and heads, and then return to normal time. And after he does that a couple times, everybody just puts their hands up and drops their sword. And what I liked was the end of the movie, where the Vikings basically had a deal with King Vortigern before Arthur was the king, and so they want they're at the round table with Arthur, and they say, well, King Arthur, we had a deal in writing, we have a treaty with your predecessor, the king, giving us the Vikings 500 orphan boys that we could train to be in our Viking army. And King Arthur says, that's not going to happen. But it says, but we have a written treaty, and it would be wise for you to honor your written treaty with us. And he says, sorry, nope, not going to happen. Forget about it. So they tell him, well, King Arthur, you should rethink about your decision that you just made, because Britain is surrounded by 3,000 Viking longboats full of soldiers, and so King Arthur says, well, here's what you can do. What I need all of you to do is get down on your knees and bow before Britain, because you're not talking to me, you're talking to Britain, and Britain wants you down on your knees, to give homage to Britain. But if you don't and Vikings all look at each other and they think, no, we're not going to do that. There's 40 or 50 Vikings in this room. And they look at each other and say, no, we're not going to do that. And so King Arthur says, well, he just beaten the crap out of Vortigern, 10,000 soldiers, summoned a gigantic snake to retake the castle or whatever with his sword. So I said, well, if you don't like that option, then option number 2 is I'm going to take this crown off of my head, put it on the round table. I'll go pick up Excalibur, and then we could settle this between us. You and me will just have it out and see how that works out for you. And the Vikings all look at each other, and they just get down on their knees and Sorry, King Arthur. You know, and that was it. And the whole point was, you know, that's how you rule. It's the threat of force. You know, and that was the problem with President Obama. There was no threat of force. He couldn't lead a rat to cheese. He was such a crappy leader. and you know, I mean, I'm not saying Trump is an expert or anything, but there is the feeling that, you know, if Trump says he's going to bomb you, he'll bomb you, and you know, and it's that he's willing to use force as a tool of, you know, state power. And it's not that you're bloodthirsty; it's that, you know, and you know. So at the end of the scene, you know, the Vikings all get down on their knees and say, "Oh, glad this problem is solved. It's great. We can be friends now. Isn't it good to have friends? Let's eat." You know, and the problem is solved. You know, and if you don't solve the problems, then, you know, you get into that's when you start having problems and have diplomatic problems and economic problems and war problems. That's how wars start, when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and that was the problem with Obama. You know what the fuck he was doing, and that's the end of the politics for this Memorial Day movie chat. Any last movies? Let's see. Okay, looking at We Were Soldiers, Apocalypse Now, Siege on Fireblaze Gloria. I like that one. Another Arlie Ermey movie.
Yep.
I like how he wore his boonie hat in that one. Let's see. Yeah, I think Braveheart was better than The Patriot, but, you know, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's all the same movie.
Yeah, it's like Braveheart was like, yeah, I don't know why it's like Mad Max, but it's like, you know, why would the Scottish people want a mad Australian running around, you know, in Scotland? You know, anyway.
But Braveheart made money, so what they do? They did Braveheart does the American Revolution, and they called it The Patriot. And then they did Braveheart does Vietnam, and they called it We Were Soldiers. It's the same plot, it's the same character, it's the same, you know.
Well, I know, but yeah, John Wayne played the same character too in all of his movies. John Wayne was just John Wayne. He wasn't, you know.
But what I'm saying, it's more or less the same premise. You know, it's just like Days of Thunder. It's Top Gun in a race car. That's all it is.
Oh, they're redoing Top Gun. They're redoing Top Gun. I don't know how it's going to be.
Get out of here.
Yes, I read that also.
Who are we going to fight, Dusty?
I don't know.
It's going to be drones fighting drones. Green Beret. John Wayne still plays John Wayne, the same character in every movie. I saw Rio Bravo, but it wasn't a war movie. It was, you know, as Rio Bravo was on.
The Green Berets, yeah. Sulu was in that. George Takei.
Yeah. He plays a South Vietnamese officer who's just wants to kill as many North Vietnamese and Viet Cong as he possibly can.
Ooh, Enrique brings up a good one. The Great Santini, yes.
Who was in that?
I would call that a Cold War movie. That was Robert Duvall, right? I think.
Okay. Oh, we forgot to mention The Longest Day. That was the film that saved 20th Century Fox after the Cleopatra disaster. I think Cleopatra was a good movie with Richard Burton, but, you know. The one that I watched today was Where Eagles Dare. Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood. When they go into the Schloss Adler to rescue General Carnaby, who had been captured with the plans to the Second Front, but it was all a spy plot to catch all the German spies in Britain and round them up. And basically, what happened on that movie was Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood were in the same movie, but yeah, because mostly Richard Burton hadn't done. He mostly did. He was a Shakespearean trained actor from Wales. And, I mean, he did a war movie once, you know, I mentioned earlier, The Desert Rats, and where he played the, well, yeah, I'm going to like it, Glorious Bastards, because I'm Jewish, but he played a British officer who got put in charge of Australian battalion, or and the M3 battalions in Tobruk. And what?
Patrick says ISIS in a hang glider. That's who Maverick is going to go fight.
ISIS in a hang glider.
That's all they can afford over there. That's it.
Yeah, well, okay. I was going to say something about politics, but since you bring up ISIS, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, okay. Did we miss any? I saw Steel Helmet. That was a great one. All right. So, anything else that let's see. What was that Cold War movie with the destroyer and the submarine, where the German U-boat captain is on the American destroyer, and they have a standoff with the Russian sub, somewhere around Alaska, and basically the destroyer captain, I don't know if was it Richard Widmark or I think plays the U.S. destroyer captain, and the German, who I forgot who played the German captain, but they basically are hunting a Russian sub, and they it was like the something incident or something, I forget, but it was basically they launch a anti-submarine weapon from the destroyer against the sub, and the sub launches a torpedo, and then they get the sub, but the torpedo from the submarine launches and gets they both kill each other in the end, basically. The sub.
Oh, so like Romeo and Juliet.
Well, it's a sub, it's a destroyer. Basically they're doing all the usual destroyer versus surface ship versus submarine warfare thing, and then they both wind up launching their weapons and killing each other. The submarine has a nuclear tipped missile, and the destroyer, the captain keeps crowding the submarine and pushing him into a corner, and so the sub captain doesn't have any way out. So you've got too much fluoride in your water. It's supposed to be good for your teeth.
I was making a reference to Dr. Strangelove.
Okay. Well, the scene I remember from that, was that the scene where the guy's on a nuclear bomb and as it's falling towards the earth or something like that? I remember it from the Tesla video. It's on my Apocalypse 8-track list. What's that music video by Tesla? I have to go look at my own channel. Maybe look at my own channel. The last resort. Let's see. View channel. Waiting for YouTube. Since you brought up Cold War, Modern Day Cowboy, right? That's on my playlist. They wanted me to come up with a playlist of 8 songs to take into the apocalypse, so that was one of them. And they show some of Dr. Strangelove in that music video. But anyway, all right, so that's been Lock and Load for this Monday, and I think we'll see you all next week. We'll come up with some brilliantly gun-related topic or prepper-related topic. And so I think the last video I put out just today was beans, bullets, and bullion. And you could make it beans, bullets, bullion, and Band-Aids, boobs, or beans, bullions, and Bitcoin if you want. But I know there's a lot of difference of opinion on that. It was up to $2,700 just recently, and then it went down to $2,100, and now I think it's like $2,350 or something like that last time I looked. It goes up and down. Anyway, see y'all next week. God bless America. Check out Gun Channels if you want. It's free to join. Check it out anytime. It doesn't cost anything. Gunchannels.com. And there's a lot of very interesting folks on there. And they've got patches. And they're printing up more. All right. See you next week.